This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We're back. Welcome in to Money Moves on a Thursday. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel back in the saddle here after spending the last week or so filling in for the guys on Follow the Money. Very grateful to everybody who filled in for us over the course of the last week or so. But it was a fun run. Happy to be back in our usual spot, though.
I think you're happier than I am.
I love our time slot. What can I say? It's like early enough in the day, but late enough to where you can sleep in. When you're done, you get to go right to lunch. Well, for us, sleeping in, I guess.
Sleep in.
If I sleep in until 6 o'clock in the morning, it's okay.
Alarm goes off at 3:45 every morning.
You have a problem, though.
Let's go.
Like, let's talk about that because you have a serious issue where you do not sleep.
No, I mean, Stormy, I have an eternity to sleep coming up here in like 40 years or so. Maybe.
What's that Bring Me the Horizon song that I've quoted with you before?
The Pray for Plagues?
No.
Which one?
Yeah, but I will never sleep because sleep is for the weak.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly.
I will never sleep. On that
For those who understand the reference, by the way, of Bring Me the Horizon, Stormy would surprise you with her musical knowledge of that genre.
I told you, I used to watch YouTube videos on how to like properly growl. So we're working on it. On that note, we do have a great show on deck for you. Very excited for all we're going to get into over the course of the next 2 hours. So let's set the table with everything that's to come.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
So, JVT, not the sexiest college basketball card I've ever seen in my life, but there are still a ton of games to get into, and we're going to do just that with our guy, Greg Hoops Peterson, in about 15 minutes.
Yep, looking forward to it. You mentioned it, but there's still some diamonds in the rough on this card that we can talk about, including an interesting game with Memphis on the road against South Florida. Very interested to see what the spot is like for Memphis. Interesting little scheduling stretch for the Tigers at North Texas. Get blown out on the road against Utah State. Now you got to go again, a third straight road game. So we'll see what Memphis has in store among any others. And to talk about last night as well,
yes.
I was at the site of an embarrassing performance for UNLV yesterday. So we'll talk about the Mountain West, which becomes ever more interesting with the results from yesterday and the day before.
Speaking of last night, yes, we're going to talk about the upset with Creighton and UConn.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to talk about what's been going on with Darren Peterson because that saga continues. But for now, we also have a lot of NBA to get to because we're kicking off the second half tonight with a loaded 10-game card. Very excited to have the association back.
The second half, as we put in air quotes, even though we're well over the halfway mark of the season. Looking forward to the games today. We got a lot of news as well. And as part of that, too, as we get closer to the second half or into the second half, we have some updates from some media members who have votes as to what they're thinking for some awards today as well that we can discuss that I think have some interesting nuggets in comparison with where the betting market's at for a couple of guys.
We'll also hit on some NFL news and notes a little bit later on in the program. DraftKings has officially dropped their season win totals for the year, so some early reaction to that. But we are going to start in the Olympics as we are going for gold. Team USA, Team Canada head-to-head right now. We just dropped the puck in the second period here. Scoreless after one, which was a bit of a surprise. Canada had 2 power plays. They couldn't cash in on any of them. Meanwhile, had a delayed penalty late in the first that set up Team USA to now have an early power play opportunity here in the second. About 50 seconds left on that. And Canada just scored a shorty?
Ooh. See, what do we talk about with this price, man?
Oh, no.
Come on now. The Americans were getting priced out of their gourds, and here we are, the Canadians, up 1-0 early going in the second period, 19:06 left to go. And with 52 seconds left, I mean, we saw, was it the Italy game? Mm-hmm. Did they get 2 shorties? The American women did? In that matchup against them? Well, hoisted by your own petard here because you give up one on the other end. Pretty rough goal to give up there.
It is, and not the start that I know I anticipated at all. I was on a numbers game earlier today saying regardless of the prices, I still feel my handicap is that Team USA is the significantly better team in this matchup. So a lot of game left to go here, but I mean, Canada, even in the first period, had a lot of missed opportunities. They outshot Team USA 8-6. USA looked a little bit tight, a little out of sorts, and obviously that continues here early into the second period. I sure hope that the Americans can figure this out because this is, at least on paper and based on what we've seen every single game up until this point, this is the best Olympic roster we've seen in women's hockey, period, to this point. So for them, if they do go on to ultimately lose this game, it would be a massive upset in my mind.
And what do you have here? What exactly are you
I laid 1.5 with Team USA.
Okay. I'll be rooting for you.
I mean,
What's the in-game number
they
here?
outscored. I have it up. They are still laying 1.5. It's plus 250 on that right now, but obviously they closed laying 2.5, depending on where you look. And it was you were getting plus money on that price, but the live total here sitting 4.5. Team USA minus 140 on the money line, but Canada with a 1-goal advantage right now, plus 110 on them still where we sit. But this is a USA team that has been dominant every step of the way. They enter this game in a 5-game shutout streak, outscoring everybody 31-1. They've been dominant specifically against Team Canada. I've referenced a number of times throughout the course of the week that rivalry series they played from November and December, where they won all 4 of those games. They then beat them 5-0 in a shutout win in the preliminary round of the Olympics, albeit, yes, without Canada's captain in that game, but all of those wins by 3 goals or more. I think it's 7 straight games dating back to World Championships too. The Team USA has had the advantage and won over Team Canada. So this is the better team. But gold medal games, things get tight.
Americans minus 110 just on the money line. So just a win, minus 110. I would assume that you think then there is some value in going in on the Americans here in the middle of the game.
I'm going to say I'm already invested.
Well, if I removed that, if I was asking you as somebody who is sitting here who has been in-game betting hockey throughout the Olympics and wondering what I should bet here.
I want to say yes, but I genuinely don't know based on the start that we've seen. Like that first period is very uncharacteristic from what Team USA has showed throughout this tournament to this point. I would like to see a little bit more driving offense, shots on net, getting into the dirty areas in front of the net. I haven't really seen a whole lot of that yet. So we'll keep tabs on this as we go. If we do start to see a shift, we'll definitely talk about some more live betting opportunities. We do have the bronze medal result, by the way, in hand. Switzerland with the overtime upset win for bronze earlier this morning, 2-1 in overtime. Alina Mueller with the game-winning goal. And how cool is this, JVT? It's been 12 years since Switzerland medaled in the Olympics for women's hockey. The last time, 12 years ago, Mueller was a 15-year-old, won the go-ahead goal in that one as well for them to win a medal. So like very, very cool for Switzerland to get that upset win. They cash plus 160 on the money line. We'll also go ahead and preview the men's semifinals a little bit later on today with Team Canada and Team USA, both pretty decent sized favorites in their respective games. Let's get to a little bit of this college basketball though here quickly. I mentioned that upset. Dustin and I on Follow the Money yesterday, Dustin Sweetelson, host of Cashing Out, we talked a lot about how UConn has struggled to cover these double-digit numbers in Big East play since, 1-8 as double-digit favorite since we've had the turn to the new year. Make it 1-9 with a straight-up loss now to a Creighton team that had lost 5 of 6 games coming into that one last night. They cash as a 15.5-point dog, 10-1 on the money line. UConn in stores, just a terrible game for them. What did you think?
I don't even need to talk about, I think, from a double-digit standpoint. You just go back to January 4th. They've only covered 2 games. So it's an even bigger sample size of UConn being somewhat overvalued in a really bad Big East. And now you get this where you're at home, you lose this game, you give up 91 points, a very poor defensive rating for the Huskies. I think every team is going to have a bad day for the most part. It's basketball. It's a hard sport to play consistently. For the most part in Big East play, they have been very good. But if you look at the times in which they have had their issues, the St. John's game, the Creighton game, and even some of the tight contests like against lowly Providence at times, it has been the defense that has let them down. And you do wonder, you and I brought this up a couple of days ago when we were talking about just the big picture of the NCAA tournament and who's going to win and these teams who can or can't. UConn seems like a team that has been building its resume on a really soft conference. And I think you question whether or not this team is legitimately on par with some of the teams at the top that we're discussing as national championship contenders. I think they can win a couple of games in the NCAA tournament, but I do think that we're getting more evidence here over the last 4 games, as they've lost 2 out of the last 4 now. And again, have only covered 2 games since the beginning of January, that this is a team that's been a little overvalued, has been beating up on a bunch of soft teams, and that the reality is this is much more of a team that is on the outside looking in of the true title contenders.
Out to 19-1 now to be this year's national champion. I think that's a conversation that we can certainly bring up with Greg Peterson coming up in the next segment. Speaking of Peterson, how about Darren Peterson tapping himself out of the game last night? Kansas gets the win and cover against Oklahoma State. Never in doubt there, 81-69, but he doesn't play the bulk of the second half, hits a 3, and then says, I need to come sub out. Doesn't come back.
It was really weird.
Really weird.
I don't want to assume anything. I think you know how I operate. I'm like, let's get all the information. We don't know what's going to happen here. But you watch the clip of him hitting the 3 and then kind of tapping Bill Self on the belly like, hey, buddy, I'm done. self-pulling him out, and then the comments afterwards, which I know that we have, all of that put together, it does really seem odd how Peterson's been handling these things in game.
Well, let's hear from his head coach, Bill Self.
Well, we've had it more than a couple of times, and I didn't anticipate that tonight at all. I thought he was good to go, but obviously we only got 18 minutes out of him, and that's disappointing because he could have had a really big night. But one thing about it is we've it's happened often enough that our guys have learned to play without him, even though that's not the way we want to play. But that's certainly something that we're not unaccustomed to, right now.
He also added, I thought we were past it, but obviously we're not. Said you get into the NCAA tournament and you're playing a team just as good as you need to have all your best players available. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's concerning. Is Darren Peterson both the Jayhawks' best chance and potentially biggest hindrance to a run to the Final Four?
I don't know if he's a hindrance. I mean, they play really well without him, so I think that's okay. It's just such a weird dynamic. And I don't think, because I know a lot of people want to run with this, I think a lot of people, I guess they assume that he's just faking it or whatever it is. It is being reported as actual cramps. And so we'll see if maybe he's actually dealing with something here. But either way, to your point, it's not good when you have a very impactful player like that in and out of the lineup, not just game to game, but during the game as well. That can't help you with continuity in a neutral site tournament like the NCAA.
He's only played in 15 of Kansas's 26 games. Quad cramping, hamstring strain, ankle injury. Of the 15 he's played, he's also left 3 early, BYU, Iowa State, and last night, and had the DNP the other day after warming up against number 1 Arizona. So it's been an issue. As he said, it's something that they've had to deal with and been able to figure out big picture. But will it continue? We'll discuss that and more coming up with Greg Hoops Peterson after this.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Canada up on Team USA in the gold medal women's hockey game at the Olympics. Hannah Bilka had an open net opportunity to tie the game, missed high. Hillary Knight, another opportunity. So they're at least starting to drive a little bit more offense. We'll see if they can find an equalizer here in the second period as we welcome you back here to Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Going to get back into a little college hoops here, and who better than Greg Hoops Peterson, who joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Obviously, VSiN college basketball analyst, contributor, host of the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast. And Greg, before we get into some of the games for today, we were talking in the last segment about what's been going on with this Kansas team and Darren Peterson, who subs himself out of a game yet again last night against Oklahoma State. What do you make of this situation, and how concerning is another moment like that from Peterson for Kansas's hopes overall once we get to tournament time?
For one, it hurts my soul when I go on the old Twitter/X and I see people saying that Peterson is quitting, because I am not quitting on anyone whatsoever. So I must say that. But that said, when it comes to this Kansas team, it just gives you a lot of questions as to what you're going to be able to get. And it's a moving handicap because you have to always check if Darren Peterson is going to be good to go, if he's dealing with any sort of prior injury. And then you don't know what you're going to be able to get out of him as well, because you look at the game last night, it was very akin to what we saw in that BYU game where Kansas got up by a big, huge margin, and then they did have a little bit more of a, shall we say, lackadaisical second half without him as well. They're a completely different team, and the biggest concern is with regards to totals. It stayed well under the total against Oklahoma State. Who knows what happens if Darren Peterson stays in or not? So, I mean, this is a Kansas team that maybe you need to do a little bit more in-game handicapping with them, because they have been a different offensive team with Peterson on the floor versus off the floor. They're a rock-solid defense regardless, and they're a team that I believe can make a big run with Darren Peterson. Without him, they're still solid. But again, I feel like this is a team with a completely different dynamic, and they're a much better three-point shooting team with them. So it makes handicapping them probably the hardest job in all of college basketball right now, because they have a top 5 guy that you don't know if he's going to play 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 0.
All right, let's talk about another team, but this one falling flat on its face last night. UConn loses that game to Creighton. Greg, do you think the Big East has prepared UConn for what this NCAA tournament is? I keep making the case, they're bloated in terms of their power rating. They're not covering numbers. The Big East stinks. Is this team maybe a little bit worse than its record suggests?
I do think so, because you mentioned it. The against the spread record is a little bit concerning. Not that UConn has been losing a lot of games straight up. This was just their 3rd straight up loss. I believe that they're a top 10 team in all of college basketball, but they have been a team that when they've been like a 12 to 13 point favorite, for the most part, they only win by like 9, 10 points. Yesterday, they lose straight up, and I do think that Creighton is actually figuring it out. Austin Schwartz was a guy that was stepping up for them. They were dealing with a little bit of an injury with him, but Josh Schicks was that guy that stepped up, and Greg McDermott is a really good coach for Creighton. But at the same time, for UConn, I would argue that you don't necessarily have that go-to guy. Unlike in past years, Alex Caravan is rock solid. Solo Ball is solid. Silas Emery, they're all solid pieces. Who do you go to when you need a bucket? Who do you go to when you're in a little bit of a tight spot? That's a question that I have with a UConn team that it feels like they do everything pretty solid. They don't necessarily do one thing great this year.
Last question for you, because we didn't get a chance to talk about the Alabama-Arkansas game off the top of the show. Any big takeaways that you had from that result other than, both of these teams sure can run?
Well, when it comes to those high totals, sometimes I get suckered into this myself, so I'm guilty of this. I took the under yesterday. Sometimes you just take the over when it looks like it's a super duper high total, and man, that thing absolutely soared over. But for this Arkansas team, I would say that in a losing effort, they still looked really good. Malik Thomas, Darius Acuff, and Acuff had 45 points in that game. I think that Arkansas is a team that out of the SEC, they can make a run, because I've been talking about this the last few days, and I think it's worth bringing up with you guys. If you look at the dynamic in college basketball this season, a lot of these top teams, Arizona, Gonzaga, Michigan, a lot of them are built around really good post play. They're built around great forwards. They've got good guards, but not necessarily great guards. Arkansas is a team that they have a really, really amazing guard play. They need to hunker down a little bit more down low, but they do have a guy with good versatility in Trevon Brazile. I would argue that this loss on the road against Alabama for Arkansas, not necessarily a bad result whatsoever. And I think that they're a team in the NCAA tournament. If they get hot, because they actually guard the 3-point line really well. Going into yesterday, they were a top 55 team in terms of opponent's 3-point shooting percentage. They could be a team that could be really, really dangerous in the tournament.
All right, Greg, let's turn the page to today. This is not in your article, but I know I can ask you whatever I want. I think Memphis is a very interesting spot here today. They're on the road for their 3rd straight road game. It was North Texas, day off. Then they had to go to Utah State, where Penny Hardaway is complaining about getting blown out. And then now here, you get the Bulls on the road. It's 8.5 or 9 with a total of 162.5 now. What do we make of this situation for Memphis and how much they've been traveling and what it means for them today?
Yep, I made my line 8.5 on this game. I was seeing some 8s overnight. I laid 8 with South Florida, mainly because I just don't trust in Penny Hardaway as a coach. I don't trust in this Memphis team. You mentioned it. The schedule has been all sorts of brutal. And for South Florida, they're a team that I think is starting to figure it out as well. They have that nice win on the road against Wichita State. They're a really nice team in terms of giving themselves second and third chances. Top 30 team in terms of offensive rebound percentage with Isaiah Nelson, a guy that followed Hodgson over on over from Arkansas State. And for Memphis, they give up way too many second and third chances. This team does not do the fundamentals well. They're outside the top 320 in terms of turnovers on a per possession basis. They're outside the top 310 in terms of defensive rebound percentage. That's mainly the amount of offensive rebounds that you allow your opponents. With them not doing the little things well, having a lot of guys being in and out of the lineup, as they have been a very banged up team, and Doug McDaniel has been your top scorer. He's been much less effective here in the last few games as well. I just really can't trust this Memphis team. Now, the total's getting up to 161.5. I think that it's getting a little bit too high, because Memphis, you think of them as being a great offense. They're outside the top 225 in terms of points per possession on offense this year. So 161 does become that buy point on the under, and I personally laid it overnight with South Florida.
While the North Carolina Tar Heels are having a bit of a tough go of it this season, especially with the injuries, give it up for the UNCW Seahawks. They've been awesome, and they've got the Monmouth Hawks tonight.
Very weak cacaw. There you go.
No, they've been fun. And laying a pretty decent sized number though today against Monmouth. How do you see this one playing out? Can UNCW keep this going?
A cacaw for the Seahawks. I absolutely love that. As I call them, actually, the CAA Avengers. They brought in a whole bunch of guys from within the conference, and they've all been able to come together and just put together this nice run. I love this team at -6.5 right now. I'd be willing to lay up to 10 because they're so dominant on the glass. This is a top 30 team with regards to rebound percentage. And you know what makes a rebounding team dangerous? A team that also guards the three-point line really well. And that becomes even bigger in this game because Monmouth is actually looking to pile drive the ball inside, which I really don't know why, because with Monmouth, they're a top 50 team in terms of percentage of the shots that come from two-point range. And they're outside the top 310 with that 2-point shooting percentage. So riddle me that. You've got a UNCW team that does a great job giving themselves second and third chances. They take great care of the ball, fewer than 11 turnovers per game. I think the UNCW is just way too strong on the inside. I think that they get the job done, and they're a team to be watching out for in the CAA. So we'll delay with UNC Wilmington. I set them as more of a 10-point favorite, and UNC Wilmington outside the top 300 in terms of total possessions per game, top 75 team in terms of points allowed on that per possession basis. In terms of a total of 143.5, I also like the over. I like the under, I should say.
What about that North Texas team I mentioned, Greg? They're a little hot. They've covered 3 straight. Now they're laying 6.5 at home against Tulane, total 136.5.
Yep, this is another one where I do like the under. You've got a North Texas team that they're looking to play strong defense, and they're not so great on offense. North Texas hovering right around about 300th in the country in terms of points scored on a per possession basis, but they do a great job with their perimeter defense. Top 25 team in opponents' three-point shooting percentage, top 10 team in terms of generating turnovers. And one thing that Tulane does not do, they do not give themselves second chances to score. They're a bottom 10 team in terms of offensive rebound percentage. Now, interestingly, with Tulane, they shoot less than 30% from three-point range at home, more than 35% away from them. I think that that's a number that's going to be ironing out. And I would say that Tulane actually has the best player on the floor, Rowan Brumbaugh. He's giving you 15 points, 4 boards, 5 assists. He does a little bit of everything for this Tulane team. He just doesn't have a lot around him, man. This is a North Texas team that they do an incredible job of giving themselves second and third chances on the glass. They need to because they're outside the top 275 in terms of their 2-point and 3-point shooting percentage. But I think that North Texas makes this a slow slog. I think that they make this a little bit of an eyesore of a game, but do think that they get the job done. Would be willing to lay up to 6.5 with North Texas to go with that under.
30 seconds, Greg. App State bet out from 2.5 to 4.5. The market likes them, as do you, but are we getting a little too heavy at that number now?
4.5 is my max buy point. I set this line at 5, so I still think that you've got a little bit of value. Be cautious because Appalachian State on 365 Division I teams, they're a nice hearty 365th in terms of their free throw shooting percentage, so that should give you a little bit of pause, but they're great on the boards. They're a team that does not allow you good, clean looks. Top 50 team in terms of opponents' 2-point and 3-point shooting percentage. I think that they win this game with their defense, so I'm in on Appalachian State, but 4.5 is at max lay.
Greg, you're awesome. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Always appreciate you guys. Thank you.
And by the way, Greg up at vsin.com. You can also find it on his X account at gunit_ is it 81?
Yes.
That he'll have all of those available for you if you want to see the sides and totals, the numbers that he makes specifically. Also at vsin.com. He's got a full article of all of his favorite plays ultimately for today where he saw the most advantages. We're going to keep the hoops talk going next. 10-game card in the NBA. We'll dive into it all coming up.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back on Money Moves, this segment sponsored by Upside. Download the free Upside app and earn real cash back every time you fill up your gas tank. Use promo code SPORTS for 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. That's SPORTS, SPORTS. And speaking of the gas tank, the Team USA, American women, could use a little bit of a fill up themselves right now. They were driving offense pretty well, had some extended zone time, but nothing to show for it here yet. Still down 1-0 to the Canadian women. Then we saw Canada start to answer a little bit. Score is staying static right now. This Canadian goaltender, Anne-Renee Desbiens, has been fantastic to this point. 4 minutes left here in the second period. We will keep tabs on it all. Worth noting, though, if you do think that the USA women can come back in this thing, it's the first time they've really faced adversity in a long time. They are plus 120 on the money line right now. The Canadian women minus 154. Canada laying 1.5 on the puck line now as well, although you are getting 3-1 on that number. Let's get into the NBA, though, because we are officially back for, as you have put it, the quote unquote second half, because we're clearly much farther in than one half of this NBA season.
Some would call
right
it
now.
the home stretch.
One might say. Why don't we? Why don't we just dub it that moving forward?
I've tried.
And
Hasn't
yet,
worked out.
here we go. 10-game card coming
Not
up
a
today.
trendsetter.
We've gotten a handful of injury news items, though, over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours. What do people need to know ahead of today?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple that there's obviously a few that will tie into some of the games that we will have today. One of the ones that will not, because the Grizzlies are not going to play today, is that John Morant's going to miss at least 2 more weeks with a sprained UCL in his elbow. Just worth noting, if anybody had missed a report, keep that in mind as you move forward with some of these injury reports and just for the Memphis Grizzlies in general. Couple of games that we will have tonight that do get impacted. We do have a couple of these. First off, Franz Wagner is going to be reevaluated in 3 weeks due to an ankle injury. It's a big blow for Orlando. And on top of that, the Kings are tanking, baby. Now, they are the worst team in the NBA from a record standpoint, but that is not going to keep them from solidifying their spot at the top. Bottom. Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine both underwent season-ending surgeries on Wednesday. So
can't get fined for surgery.
Correct. Same thing with Jaren Jackson Jr., right? Yeah, man, got to get out of here. Let's get this procedure done. So the Kings are going to be really, really bad. So it's an interesting spot because Orlando, an 8.5-point favorite, total of 225 or 225.5. That is a team that really wants to lose in Sacramento. And it expands the question of, how do you approach some of these teams that are trying to lose? I mean, they are tanking. They want to solidify their spot. They want the best opportunity possible to get a top pick. 2 of them play today. So Sacramento is here, but 2 of them play each other, I should say, in Indiana and Washington. So that's a fascinating game. Indiana, a 2.5-point favorite on the road against the Wizards. You could, in theory, parlay some of their opponents together and see if you can get that done, but you're still paying such a hefty price on those. So I think you could probably just draw a line through a few of these teams, but I am going to be fascinated to see down the stretch how bad it gets for some of these, like a Sacramento and others, and the Wizards. Pacers still have like a little bit more fight in them. They still have a bunch of guys who were on that NBA Finals run, obviously that NBA Finals run last year, that are still going to try to give this thing a go. So we will see, but Kings are full on tanking here today and going forward. And by the way, for the Pacers, since we're talking about it, Pascal Siakam is out. You've got a litany of questionables, including Aaron Nesmith and TJ McConnell, among some others. So keep that in mind for that game, too.
One of the shorter spreads of the day, too, at that 2.5, total 232.5. And while those are a couple games that might not be the most aesthetically pleasing and watchable for those of us out there tonight, there are a couple pretty good games. I think the belle of the ball, Pistons-Knicks going head-to-head in the Eastern Conference. New York laying 3.5, total 219.5. What stands out to you about that one tonight?
Kind of like the Knicks here. I mean, so as we have talked about, the Pistons have really drawn a target on the New York Knicks. They lose that tough series to them last season in the postseason. They have really given it to them in the regular season matchups that they have faced faced off against each other. Knicks here is a 3.5-point favorite, total 220.5, as you mentioned, with a better injury report and availability report than what the Pistons are rolling with. Remember, we still have these suspensions that'll play into the Hornets game that we're going to talk about coming up in a little bit. Jalen Duren is still suspended. Isaiah Stewart is still suspended for the Detroit Pistons. And don't you just think, from a situational standpoint, Stormy, we have these every once in a while, where if you're the Knicks, you got to draw a circle around this. You're coming off of the All-Star break. This team in the regular season has given it to you a couple of times now. Don't you think that at home, as a short favorite against a team that is missing 2 starters, that has beaten the tar out of you a couple of times, that you're not going to be just ready to go and give them their full-throated effort? And I think that might be the case here. So I think this is a play on the Knicks. I think New York's going to be ready for this Pistons team in many different ways. And I think this is one where they get the win. And 3.5, I think, is a fair number to lay against the Pistons team. And think about that. They're only laying 3.5 and they're down 2 starters. I mean, that's pretty interesting here. So give me the Knicks.
See if they can start the home stretch of the season on a high note here as they obviously try to make a push here. See if they can do something special in the postseason after firing their head coach the way that they did a year ago. It feels like it's finals or bust for them. The Eastern Conference, very interesting and condensed. I think it's fair to say at the top with the way some of those numbers are shaken out. One of those teams atop the board in the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are a massive favorite today, laying 16.5 at home against the Knicks, total 229.5 there. Cleveland has not been great, though, in the double-digit favorites role. Steve Makinen's trends articles up at vsin.com today. 1-8 ATS laying 10 or more points this season. So for as good as they are and having all of their pieces back and bringing James Harden into the fold the way that they have, Evan Mobley came off the injury report yesterday. Is 16.5 maybe still too many based on the history, or is Brooklyn just that bad?
Well, it's always funny. We always talk about these trends, and it always depends on how you slice it up. I would tell you that the Cavaliers are 1-0 against the spread the last time they laid a big number. They were 17.5-point favorites right before the All-Star break, and they blew out the Washington Wizards. So, look, I think that they have the capabilities of blowing out these lowly teams, as we have seen here. The Nets, I think you can throw into the barrel, if you will, of the basket of these tanking teams. They're currently in control of the fifth pick, or projected to have the 5th pick. Again, we still have the lottery to happen, but still 5th worst record in the NBA. So I think this is a team that's probably going to try to get its way to the top as well. So I don't think they want to win this game. Obviously, they're going to be up against it, even if they want to try to win this game. So it's a big number. I think what you sit back and wait for is whether or not Brooklyn gets off to a decent start or the Cavs start out slow coming out of the All-Star break. And maybe you get a shorter number in game against Brooklyn. Because the problem is, though, this is not going to change. We've talked about this all the time from an in-game standpoint, power ratings. When a highly power-rated team is taking on a lower power-rated team, even in-game, that number is stubborn and it will not budge, particularly. You have to wait for a little bit to see if it gets even short enough that would make it palatable, I think, for the average bettor.
Talking through the 10-game card in the NBA coming up today as the All-Star break is officially in the rear view. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel here on Money Moves. Where else should people be looking today?
Come on now.
Charlotte Hornets?
Yeah, I mean, I know the win totals. I know the win totals solidified,
but for us, not for everybody.
Not for everybody.
Yet. That said, okay, sure, 4.5-point home dog today against the Rockets, total 217.5. Can they start the home stretch on a positive note?
I hope not. I bet the Rockets. So I think that when you look at
it's all downhill from here.
I don't know if it's like all downhill, but Houston, these two teams are both missing some very key pieces. Obviously, for Houston, we had the news, of course, right around before the break, where you talked about the injuries in that front court and what that meant for them, specifically with Steven Adams. But outside of that, you still have everybody else available for you. But on the flip side, again, you still have the suspensions of Miles Bridges and Moussa Diabate. I think that's going to affect Charlotte here. I think Houston is good enough defensively that they're going to be able to match up with whatever, piece here, whether it's Con Knippel, whether it's Brandon Miller, that they feel they need to guard with some of their best winged and perimeter defenders. And on the flip side, I don't think really Charlotte has anybody that's equipped to keep up with a Kevin Durant type and defend him adequately. And then who in the world is going to take the minutes there for you against Alperen Sengun? So I think overall, this feels like a pretty good matchup for Houston coming out of the All-Star break. I think that this is one where you can potentially get it done. We saw this open like 2.5. It's up to 4.5. I still think 4.5 is playable. So our Charlotte Hornets, I hope they get it. We need them to get into the playoffs. But I think today is going to be a tough one for them.
I do have one bet in the NBA today.
Let's
I'm trying to do more of this. I laid 6 with the Toronto Raptors in Chicago taking on the Bulls. Obviously, this is a team that's been blown up at the trade deadline. Like, who do they even have anymore? They lost 6 in a row entering the break, 9 of their last 10. That's straight up and ATS, by the way, 1-9 ATS over that stretch on the losing streak. Every loss has been by 8 or more points, which includes a game at Toronto where they lost by 16. Looking to Steve Makinen's article once again here in one of his trends, Toronto also 11-3 against the spread on the road against teams with losing records right now. And so they seem to do well and perform against teams that are lesser than. So to me, and again, you see 6.5 right there, opened 5.5, I believe. So it has been getting bet up a little bit more that way. There are still 6s in the market, which is what I took. I think that's the side, but you are our senior NBA analyst, so help me out. Am I crazy?
It's the worst bet I've ever heard in my life. I don't know why you would.
Great, classic, typical.
It's a good handicap. Yeah, I think you got it.
So I don't know enough about the Raptors to know if I should feel confident in them. So that's, I guess, what I ask here.
I think the Raptors, as you know, I have them to win the division. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think the Raptors are a very good defensive team, and they have some upside on offense. They have shown that as well. So I think in a spot like this against the Chicago Bulls, who are going to be limited offensively, especially post-trade deadline, that they're going to be in a good spot.
All right, Bulls, just continue to be terrible, please. You know, it's not terrible. The Upside app. And as I told you off the top here, there is no reason to pay full price at the pump anymore. The free Upside app gives you real cash back every time you buy gas right now. Download Upside today. You can start earning on everyday fill-ups and use our promo code SPORTS because that's going to get you 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. Upside users getting hundreds of dollars a year just by driving like they normally do. Cash out whenever you want, straight to your bank account or popular gift cards. Get started today with the free Upside app. Promo code SPORTS. Offers vary by user and location. See upside.com for terms and conditions as we continue to sweat out this women's Olympic hockey game. Canada up 1-0 as we are in the second intermission. Coming up next, we'll hit you with those live numbers and a preview of the semifinals on the men's side. Stick around.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
College basketball is rolling. Baseball season is just about here. And now's the perfect time to bet smarter with VSiN Pro. Sign up today. Get daily best bets from all of our VSiN show hosts and guests. Real-time DraftKings and Circa bet splits, AI-powered prop tools, matchup analysis, 24/7 video and full show replays. Plus, our all-new MLB betting guide is out now. Inside the guide is Money by Championships. We break it down. You also get detailed team previews, a stats glossary, and key analytics to know. Sharp betting insight from VSiN Pro experts and the player perspective from former MLB pitcher and VSiN host Jensen Lewis. Start today for just $9.99 or save 50% with an annual subscription. Visit vsin.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. We are in the second intermission of the USA-Canada women's gold medal game. The Canadians still leading Team USA 1-0. They scored on a short-handed goal, which is very unfortunate. Team USA did drive a lot of offense. They had a number of scoring opportunities late in the second period, couldn't make anything happen. So down 1-0, JVT, one period to go. Plus 140 for the American women on the money line if you think they can rally and come back. Team Canada now laying minus 180. They're laying 1.5 goals as well, plus 270 if you think they can extend their lead.
What do you think?
I just don't know if Team USA is going to get through.
What happened?
That said,
these were monsters.
I mean, I still think that if they lose this game, it is a mammoth upset, a monster upset. Truly, this is like on the brink of history for Canada to do this and deny Team USA once again in the gold medal game. That said, did you watch any of the Olympic hockey yesterday? Because we had 3 of the 4 games on the men's side go to overtime. Even the American game late against Sweden was a 1-0 game where Sweden got an equalizer, 90 seconds left remaining in that game to force overtime. So can USA make something out of this? I sure hope so. I like the idea of a plus 140, but they just haven't been able to cash in. I said it last segment. See, I've got too much hockey on the brain. Canada's goaltender, Anne Renee Davienne, has been fantastic today. So
I feel like you like saying her name. You've said her full name like multiple times.
I like saying Marie-Philippe Poulin as well. My name's just Stormy. Like, we got to spice it up a little bit.
I do. I spice your name up all the time.
I spice your name up too, and I say Jonathan Van Tobel.
That's not spicing it up. It's. I would argue that Stormathy, Stormantha are way better.
Because that's something I've had to do. You'd be surprised how many people ask me if Stormy's short for anything.
Yeah.
And I've given that answer sometimes. Yeah, Stormathy.
Stormantha sounds a little bit
face.
better. I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do it.
You were thinking about making a live bet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking around trying to see if there's something here. I mean, I think my question would be, if this is just one of those hockey games where the USA is not going to break through, then, I mean, a minus 1.5 plus 260, this is the game. You're going to pull your goalie. There's a opportunity potentially for an empty netter here coming up if you're Canada. So minus 1.5 plus 260, do we just buy the fact that USA just doesn't have it today? And that we're looking for something here.
I think that's what it is like you have to really cement your thought process Do you think USA is just not going to get through? Because if that's the case, then yes, you take the Canada, lay the 1.5. If you do think they can win or at least force overtime,
Or
maybe you take the plus 140 and see what happens in OT.
Or you just see plus 250 and you fire because why not? So let's do it.
That's what you're doing? You're laying 1.5 with Canada?
Going with the Canadians. Let's do this. Let's have some
That's
fun.
actually kind of a win-win because, I mean, although I don't know how much pride of country you have, if USA does come back, you're just happy for America.
You're trying to set me up.
And if they lose,
trying to set
then
me
you
up.
make that money, honey. Let's go to the men's side here because
No, it's not a win-win because in theory, Canada could win 1-0.
that's a fact as well.
Yes. So no, it is not. It's not indeed a win-win.
Hypothetically a win-win. Hypothetically a
It's
win-win.
actually, it could be a win-win if I win my bet and America loses. How about that?
So as I mentioned on the men's side,
Really quickly, can I say as well? There's a lot of this yesterday. So, Team USA wins the game, all that kind of stuff. I love how some people who have no thoughts whatsoever shared on social media about their love for country all of a sudden become like, oh, America, it's great. I've been waiting for this the whole time. Like, no, you haven't. You don't like hockey and you never talk about the country. And yet all of a sudden you're like, hell yeah, America, this is great. It's ridiculous.
this is a great time for hockey fans, though, to actually see other people take interest. I think that's nice. It reminds me a little bit, and not quite to the extent, of how people get super invested in gymnastics all of a sudden in the Summer Olympics. There are people that follow that sport and live and breathe it each and every day. And then the whole world just gets entranced by these athletes for 2 weeks over the course of the summer every 4 years. But I think that Olympic hockey is kind of having a moment right now, which is nice. It's been fun.
Gymnastic fans, I think, aren't as thin-skinned as some hockey fans out there, I'll just say.
Why do you always have to go there? You don't have to.
Got a little bit
Why
of a little
can't you
man
just
syndrome.
embrace what has been a fun week? And so as far as the quarterfinals went, like I said, 3 of the 4 games go to overtime, which included Canada against Czechia.
I thought you were going to get it.
They were a minus 1,000 favorite. For a second, we were still alive. But
What was better for you?
I have more invested in Canada.
Okay, all right.
It was a smaller play on the Czech Republic because it was 4-1. But I really believed in Team Canada ultimately winning gold. So I have more invested in that at the end of the day. And the way that they got it done was pretty impressive considering they were down 2-1 after the first period. They were facing a third period deficit to be able to come back, force overtime. And then, especially in the 3-on-3 setting in overtime, they just have so much skill and were overpowering in that moment. Good for Mitch Marner to win it for Canada. I did love the tweet from Roberto Luongo trolling Leafs fans after the overtime game winner. Said Marner was born to wear the maple leaf on his chest, which is just, kind of rude, but awesome. Also on the U.S. side, Connor Hellebuck helping the Americans hold on to what was a 1-0 lead up until, as I mentioned, just over a minute to go. Mika Zibanejad ties it up for Sweden. But Team USA, the blue line's been awesome. They didn't allow a single shot in overtime, end up ultimately winning it there on the Quinn Hughes goal. So as we look ahead to the semifinals, we have Finland, a 2.5 puck line dog to Team Canada. The Canadians laying minus 380. And this has come down a really good bit. They opened closer to $5. So people believing maybe the Finns can keep this a little bit closer. I am one of them. I did take 2.5 goals with the Finns. I had to lay around minus 140. I'm looking at DraftKings right now, minus 142. Goal total in this one sitting 5.5. 5.5. My thought process here, and for anyone who missed it, so Sidney Crosby did get injured in that quarterfinal game. He left early in the second period, didn't come back. And if you saw the video of him limping off of the ice, it didn't look good. John Cooper did say at the optional skate earlier today, in which Sidney Crosby did not skate. Neither did Nathan McKinnon, by the way. We'll get to that in a moment. That they're definitely not ruling him out for the tournament.
Right.
But the fact that he used that verbiage and didn't say the semifinal leads me to believe he's bad enough off that you want to see if you can get those extra days to keep him healthy. So I would be pretty surprised if he played in this game and then maybe gutting it out for another gold medal in the gold medal game.
If they make it.
If they make it. Yeah, exactly. Nathan McKinnon missed the optional skate today. He's clearly been dealing with a little bit something. The camera caught him on the bench, like throwing up Powerade. And we saw the news that Sam Bennett was dealing with an illness. That's why he was missing time. So maybe there's a little something there. Maybe it's a tweak. I don't know, but he hasn't really looked like himself. And I think with that paired with the Josh Morrissey on the back end also being day-to-day, there's just some injury concerns with the Canadians that gives me a little bit of pause for a Finnish team that actually is really good. And we've seen that a number of times throughout the tournament ever since that early preliminary game struggle. So plus 2.5 for me is the angle there. And in the U.S.-Slovakia game, So I played the under in this. I was very tempted on some angles on Team USA, but everything is just so pricey. They're an
What'd you get on the total?
6.
Under 6, okay.
Yes, so I took under 6, minus 117, minus 118 in that price range. The Team USA blue line has been the star of the show for them, and not making Connor Hellebuck have to do too much. But when he has been asked to step up in moments, more often than not, he's been able to deliver the call here. Slovakia also has some really good players, but their best player has been in net with this like Minnesota Wild AHL goalie, Samuel, I think you pronounce his name, Halavaj?
Okay.
Not 100% sure, but the dude's been awesome for them. The big thing for me with Slovakia and how I need to still figure out a way to play USA. Maybe it's a first period, like they just get off to a hot start, something like that, where it's minus 135 to just have a first period lead. I don't know. Is that Slovakia, like listening to some of their comments from players after the Germany win, feels a little like the semis is kind of their win. Like having a chance to even medal is a win. For Team USA, it doesn't feel that way. Like they finally felt some adversity. They had a tough draw in the quarterfinal against Sweden. They got through it. Now it's all eyes on the prize, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they are going to do everything they can to get back to the gold medal game, have an opportunity to do that. And they're just like apples and oranges talent-wise. It's different what they have, Team USA, compared to the Slovakian team. So that's the way that I was approaching it. Did you end up playing anything in either of these games yet?
I did not.
You think you might?
I think I might. I think you might get me on that under for Team USA here. I think everything makes a lot of sense, but let's get this Canadian team home here.
We're about to drop
Let's get a
the puck
2-0 win.
in the third period. And how dare you?
Oh, Canada.
How dare you?
Let's
Okay. We got to step aside here. When we come back, we're going to kick off hour 2 of Money Moves. Lots more to get to, whether it be the National Football League. We've got our MLB previews to keep rolling through, NBA awards. Don't miss it. More coming up on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.